into the car, getting ready to head out of pit lane. So we'll hand it over to Neil Crompton in commentary and say very good morning, Neil.
Very good morning to you, Jess. Good morning, everybody. And looking forward to our final day of competition now for the Century Batteries Ipswich SuperSprint. Our final practice session about to get underway before Armour All qualifying unfolds in 3 parts, contributing to the grid lineup for our 200-kilometre race to come this afternoon, race 20 of the championship. We had a great day of racing, as you've all just detailed in the host studio earlier. The race yesterday, 120 kilometres, was absolutely outstanding. It resulted in Jamie Whincup being victorious on this racetrack, and Virgin Australia details up on screen there for you at the moment. Just over 3 kilometres, 6 turns around here. Highly complex little track to set up for, despite the fact that it looks quite simplistic. 2 very fast corners through 1 and 2 that are quite a different shape, and they've got to be engineered in a different way in the way in which you approach them. And then those 2 slow corners, turns 3 and 6, and a couple of medium speed corners in the middle at 4 and 5. It is not an easy place to get yourself sorted. Let's have a look at it now. There's a big bump on the run into turn 1, and then mid 150 odd through the middle of turn 1, a very short shoot to 2. There's some changes to the curbs on the outside of all 6 corners this weekend, and 2 is one of the places where you can see track limits, which is topical at the moment in many forms of motorsport. Left-hander on the inside there at turn 4. There are only 2 left-handers at 4 and 5, medium speed corners, and then another passing opportunity coming into the final corner here with an average speed around the circuit of just over 164 odd kilometres an hour. There's not much going on in the way of bumps. There's a lot of action though for brakes. They get very hot round here. 4 of the 5 stops are very big brake pressures and very big brake temperatures. The cars are all lined up at 45 degrees. You can see those beautiful supercar transporters and trailers that are just in the background, and the scene looking down towards a general easterly direction. Race control area down there in main race control just off to the left. Start finish line. So we now have a 334-point margin between the teammates Scott McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard. Fabian ran wide down at turn 3 yesterday. Talked about the fact in the last couple of days, both Friday practice and also yesterday in practice quali and the race, that this is a track that tends to encourage unforced errors. We've seen a lot of drivers firing off the road. We saw Van Gisbergen and Whincup coming unstuck at turn 4 earlier in the weekend. Corley Jones has had some trauma. Yesterday, Todd Hazel got pinged 15 seconds at the end of the race for his role in contact with Anton De Pasquale in that vigorous battle that was extending between turns 1 and 2. A couple of other strange things that needed to be looked at and investigated as well. And overnight, the steward's report has come out. We saw a shot at one point during the telecast where Tim Slade was pointing in an odd direction. They had a fuel leak. It was getting all over the rear tyres on that car, and James Courtney got tangled with him, but he had no case to answer, so there was nothing much there. But there was the 15 seconds added to Todd Hazelwood's race time, and that impacted his overall result, which should have been quite strong when you stop and consider that he was very strong on Friday, and he got tangled up in, there was a lot of damage on the back of his car early in the game. There's the conditions right at the moment. Big temperature swings here. Yesterday we got to as high as 27 degrees. The mornings are cool, the evenings are cool, but in the middle of the day here, it's absolutely been beautiful. A bit of scattered cloud around though. These are ideal conditions. If you've got good tyres on the car for this session, the expectation is that you probably crank out some reasonable speed at the moment. The track does have a personality. So, snapshot of yesterday's race result. If you didn't join us in the coverage yesterday, Whincup victorious. First time that he's been able to get into victory lane for Virgin Australia this year from his mate Will Davison, who celebrated his first podium with the team, and 23 Red's first podium for Milwaukee Racing, and Chaz Mostert, who's been successful at Queensland Raceway before, making it a very good, profitable day for Tickford. Shane Van Gisbergen's off to Korea next weekend with Roland Dane, because 888 Race Engineering runs a GT program in the Asian GT Championship. He'll be driving a Mercedes-Benz in South Korea. Week to week, he's leading an interesting life. And car number 97 yesterday finished in 5th position. Now, he was very strong on the Sunday here last year. He was able to grab that thing by the scruff of the neck. He threatened on the Saturday last year and got up as far as 2nd, but on Sunday, he was supreme. He was being hunted by Scott McLaughlin. There's his teammate. He stuck 150 points of profit in the bank yesterday, car number 88. One of the things that Mark and I laughed about when we looked at the cars racing yesterday, And it's nothing laughable for the locals in this part of Queensland. It's very dry around here at the moment. Because they're dropping off the road here and there in various places, they all got covered in dust and dirt. I wandered up and down the pit lane last night after play, and the cars look pretty sad in second hand. So they've all been smartened up overnight, and we do it all again. So we've still got 27 minutes remaining, and this will be a moment for verification, stop, pause. What did we learn yesterday? What's the takeout in the debrief? Let's try X, Y, and Z. Some teams will go into this session now with a program or 2 or 3 of things to try, and then they'll get some better quality rubber on the car at some point, and then they'll fire into action. It was a great day in that garage yesterday for Milwaukee Racing. Congratulations to everybody. Phil Munday wasn't on site, but he was up on FaceTime at the end of the race celebrating it, and he's taking the team out in celebration next week. And a great breakthrough for them. So congratulations to everybody in that outfit and their partnership with Pickford. Avis Drone Cam has given us some awesome images so far this weekend. It really gives you a clear and basic understanding of the layout of the racetrack. And you can see all these different corner shapes. The radius of each corner has got its own unique personality. And I've detailed with Mark quite a number of times this weekend that it's anything but easy. One thing I didn't really understand was also this elevation change here at the final corner. That's turn 6. And the approach to is actually considerably lower than this exit area where McLaughlin is. And by the way, he's done the best time so far, a 1 minute 9.3. Let's have a look at him on the speed trap. They're good when they get to the end at peak speed for about 250 kilometres an hour. Now Mark Scopes come back into the commentary box just as Chaz Mostert knocks up the quickest time of the morning so far, a 1 minute 9.3. Top of the morning, Mr. Scope.
Good morning, Neil, and what a ripping race we saw yesterday. It was one of the best opening laps of the year. We celebrate good, hard, but fair racing, and that dive that McLaughlin had on Scott McLaughlin at turn 1, and then the dive that this man had, Will Davison, down the inside of McLaughlin at turn 2, was one of the best exchanges we've seen, and a great save by Scotty McLaughlin in the middle of turn 2 when he was bumped there. He had a big slide, he gathered it up, and then he was effectively losing spots, and then the battle in behind was very vigorous between Scott McLaughlin and Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth. We love those opening laps when it is like that. And the thing that I really took out of yesterday is this man is a genuine contender.
And has been from almost the first flying lap in Friday practice.
Yep.
I know you were talking about it in the Fox studio just before, Mark, but in analysis, looking at the way in which yesterday unfolded some of the key runners that brought home the gold yesterday, one of the impressive aspects was the pit stop for the Red Bull Holden Racing Team and Jamie Whincup. He pitted on lap 15 for a 4.1 second stop. We both raised our eyebrows at the time and went, phew, that was pretty cool. They got in and out fast. But it was interesting because we both thought at one stage that bringing McLaughlin in after the difficult run that they'd had early on might have actually helped the cause with the undercut, but it didn't because of the lengthy pit stop. It was 9.2 seconds. But he pitted on lap 10, Davison on 19, Mostert 19, Whincup 15. But there was a bit of short-term sugar hit from the let's get in early and get some rubber on, which is really all that they could do at that point. But they didn't have the car pace, and it was interesting that the tyres hurt so bad at the end. And what we've now learned, because of the high temps yesterday, is the tyres are hurting more here year on year.
Exactly. And that stop, the 9.2 second stop, 5 seconds difference between the Whincup stop and the McLaughlin stop was very costly. But as you said, they didn't genuinely have the tyre life that they needed to have. As Wes McDougall talks to Todd Hazelwood, I think one of the things that was also a good aspect of yesterday.
Wow, that's a groovy shot.
That is a great shot, isn't it? From the back of the wheel. Looking back at car 12, didn't he have some dramas yesterday?
Yeah, those fingers, beg your pardon, those holes that you see in the back of the wheel, that shot that we had up a moment ago, the fingers that are on the hub are what you've got to rotate the wheel and find. You know, very often we've seen cars that have launched out of the pit lane where the wheel hasn't been fully seated. It's because there are all those little holes that are in the back of the wheel. There they are. I don't know, count those quickly, Mr. Mathematician, because you're onto all those numbers yesterday. Anyway, there's a lot of them in there, as you can see. And then if you look through the... Go back. If you look through the centre, right, I see there are 5 little stub axles in the centre of the hub on the car. So the holes in the back of the rim have got to drop onto those 5 little stub axles, and of course you've got to rotate the wheel to actually centre it and actually get it to locate on there, and it's a lot easier said than done when you're trying to do all that 20 odd kilos of wheel and tyre
in 4 seconds.
In 4 seconds.
And when you point so closer to the TV, do you think the viewers... In the commentary box, folks, he's pointing at the TV and he's looking at those little locator lugs and he's saying all those number of holes and that little lug's going to go in those holes.
It's because it's an old analog brain and I just have to help explain it to myself, trying to find the right language. Save us, please, Gregory.
Can I please save you? Let me talk to Tim Edwards down here. Cracker race yesterday, Tim, and cracking for your guys. 2 of the cars on the podium. First podium for Milwaukee Racing. The speed that Davo had yesterday, was it a little bit of a surprise to everybody, just his tyre dig and how he managed all that? It was really good.
No, it wasn't a surprise, really. I mean, from the point that we pushed the car out on Friday, he's been sort of on the money. So I don't think it really came as a surprise. And you can already see this morning, you know, he's quite quick on very old tyres so far this morning. So, you know, obviously... It's one of those things, you know, him and Brendan have been working really hard over the last few months to find a car that's ideal for him, and you know they've gone in a slightly different direction, but you know, it's a bit like Lee. You know, it took a bit of time for us to also find that sweet spot for him as well.
Based on that, the performances yesterday, and based on what he was talking about with Brendan Hogan and Will Davison working so well together, setup-wise last night, anyone sort of shuffled more towards what he's got within the team?
Oh, well, you know. They'd be silly if they weren't looking at what he had. Certainly, you know, his tyre deck was really good as well. So, I mean, that's a great advantage of having 4 cars. You know, you're always pooling all that data. And so they're all, you know, nobody's too proud to learn off the other guys. So if somebody's found something that's good, then they're all going to take advantage of it. So they, you know, there's a lot of good dialogue goes on between all the engineers, all the drivers, and they all feed off each other.
Thanks, mate.
No worries.
Brad Jones, fuel has been your nemesis of late. Issues in Townsville and unfortunately issues for both Tim Slade and Macaulay Jones yesterday. What was the story there?
It wasn't me, it was Brand Johns that had the problem. Yesterday, unfortunately with Macca's car, the guide, they filled the car up before they went out to the grid, but the guide had slightly moved, and so when they tried to hook up in the pit stop, they couldn't get any fuel into it, and then, you know, it was a calamity of errors at the end for him not to finish, and with Slady, we had a problem with the tank on the top with the fitting, and it just started to weep, and the fuel was not going into the engine, it was going out of the car. So unfortunate way to finish, I thought. 8 and 14 especially had a strong strategy yesterday.
No doubt, some debriefs that happened overnight to rectify those.
I didn't understand one word you said then. What did you say?
You've rectified them overnight.
Oh yeah, no, today will be fine.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah, so back in the old days when we were young blokes and imagining that we were going to be world Formula One or sports car geniuses, Bradley was desperate to see his name in English Autosport, which is a big-time magazine that the world of motorsport reads. So after the fire in Townsville, he finally made it into Autosport. The problem was they actually didn't quite get his name right. Brand Johns, that legendary international racer.
Oh, that's demoralising, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I sent it to him at about 1 second after it popped up on the Sunday night. Had a little quip about barbecues. I said, is it too soon?
Simona into the 10. So remember, at the end of this session, practice 4 becomes Q0 for today. So McLaughlin, whilst we've been talking about Brand Johns, has actually done an 8.92. Whincup a 9.08. Van Gisbergen a 9.12, so that pace has continued. Will Davison also with a 9.21. And at the back of the 10, Simona is now the fastest of the Nissans, and she's in 7th, so that's a really good job.
You know how I was having a bit of trouble downshifting before, and we were looking inside the wheel, and I was really searching for terminology.
Drive pegs.
Yeah,
thanks.
There are days. Even the race director, Tim Schenkens, had a crack at me about trying to figure it out. Which, of course, commands a return serve at some point. There they are.
Yeah, there they are.
Hello, Timothy.
Is it working?
Possibly. David Stewart's
He's just pressing buttons for the sake of it now, just to make sure he looks like he's doing
race director
stuff.
in there, Craig Baird. They're not overly occupied in there clearly at the moment, and they're doing an analysis of my crook work. Michael Caruso's on screen here at the moment, car number 33, Gary Rogers Motorsport, Boost Mobile, second consecutive event that he has the opportunity to have a drive. Great to see Michael back in the paddock, and figured prominently in those awkward conditions at Townsville on the Sunday, came home in 9th position. Where did he wind up yesterday, MS? He was lost on my sheet here, I can't find it. 18th. I'm not having a good morning. I'm going to go and have a lay down, Marco.
Morning, everyone. A little update from down here in the Zelvi Power Garage. Now, Neil, you're talking about these holes in the back of the wheel there before. There's actually 15. You know how I know that? I counted them. So if you grab that wheel and throw it at a hub, if you look over on the hub here, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little Dorgans. So if you throw that wheel up there, you're 1 in 3.
What's a Dorgan?
15 into 5, you're 1 in 3 chance of getting the wheel right, okay?
Surrounded by math geniuses.
A little bit serious now. You see some work going on this now. I spoke to Ludo Delcroix, Scotty McLaughlin's engineer, just a little while ago. They finished 4th yesterday. Now, we've talked a lot about tyre degradation, the dramas they had. One thing we know for sure, this guy will not sit on the same car that they raced yesterday to finish 4th. Now, that's a pretty obvious statement, but we heard Scotty say yesterday his car wasn't that bad. But he said, no. So he said, I can't guarantee I'll get it right. That's French again, right? Can't guarantee I'll get it right. But no, he says, we changed the car. Right? So there is some changes here. Round on this side of the garage, well, we don't have to worry, the car's not there, but Fabian Coulthard, they've moved away from why they're yesterday. He's had a tough weekend this weekend, right? He's been more like the setup in Scotty's car. I think you're going to find they're going to go a bit more back to his direction. He also had some brake dramas yesterday, so they've changed the front calipers on that car. And you guys both know, forget engine horsepower, forget turn, forget exit drive. If you don't have brakes, you have nothing. They are the number one thing for me for performance gains in the category.
Well, you spent a lot of time on the brake, actually, Larko, didn't you? You were really good at making the cars go slow.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
What was that accent?
French. Oh, I thought it was genuine Ludo.
It's like Peter Sellers gone very wrong. All right, I think we're here for event 9 of the Virgin Supercars Championship, Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. Race 20 today, 20 laps, 22, actually 65 laps, 200 Ks. So this is going to get very interesting when we get near the back end of this, because it's going to contribute to the qualifying story. We've got just on 15.5 minutes remaining at the moment. McLaughlin and Whincup first and second. Van Gisbergen is third. Jamie's back in the pit lane. In fact, about 2/3 of the field are back in the lane at the moment, just contemplating the effect of any changes that they've made overnight. Rick Kelly's on screen here at the moment. He's sitting in 14th. It's been a pretty tough weekend for him so far. He was 17th yesterday. I reckon one of the things that'll be a puzzle out there at the moment, Mark, is the next to no wind and a really low temperature by comparison to what they did in qualifying and racing yesterday. And then you just got to be a little bit careful that you don't get all excited and tuned to conditions that you won't deal with later on today. Although the peak temperature today is not going to be anything like what we saw yesterday. I don't think it was very, very warm, and we were out on the grid. Turn 2's proven to be a bit of a nightmare for many competitors so far this weekend, exceeding the track limits down there. There's been another bad sportsmanship flag, this time given to Shane Van Gisbergen. There were a raft of drivers yesterday that got his drive. Actually, Lee Holdsworth in qualifying at one point lost a lap, which is when you can't afford it. In quali, practice doesn't matter quite so much, but there is the turn 2 exit curve. And if all 4 wheels and tyres straddle the what is now a black line, which is about to happen, then you're playing outside the footy field, and that's no good.
Yes.
So he's been given a warning about that. So basically when the entire car sits up on it, it's not necessarily an intention. It's when the car, you just get a bit excited on the throttle and you're trying to get on with it, and you end up just drifting wide. That shot shows it a little more clearly. And they're dropping off the edge of the road. Now, they're forecasting about 24, 25 degrees here today, so it might be 2 to 3 degrees cooler than it was yesterday. Car number 19's on screen here at the moment, 22nd yesterday for Jack LeBrock, truck assist entry. Now, McLaughlin and Whincup have gone back out. Curious to see what happens with 17 today, because in the first segment of the race in particular, they forget about whether or not he didn't get the best jump on that first lap and got shuffled. It actually didn't have the pace either. Yeah. So they'll be working very hard on that.
I'm getting vertigo here. I'm sort of stationary on the left and I'm going very fast on the right. That's our new camera that's in below the Holden emblem, the lion in the grille of the ZB Commodore for truck assist. It's a great shot. You see that curve there, and that's the one that Van Gisbergen was too wide on. Have a look at the bump here on the left-hand side. So you'll see this bump right there. Well, you can't really see it because it started to vibrate that hard that you really couldn't pick it up. This is where Jack was actually down through the weeds and through the sand trap yesterday when we were on board with him. Then you use all the road up here. And again, it's quite bumpy in this braking area for turn 4. You see there the level of pitch that ends up bouncing the front spoiler on the ground. That's what makes the camera jolt and move around. And there's the extended curb at turn 5. And there's another little bump just here on the left-hand side, just as you turn into turn 6. You can see how long these corners are. And that's why the racetrack tends to exaggerate a problem with the cars. If you've got a little bit of understeer, you tend to have a lot of it. If you've got a little bit of oversteer, you tend to have more of it also. It's a place that exaggerates a problem with the car.
68-odd second lap. McLaughlin's got into the 8s already around here, but 36-odd seconds of the lap at this racetrack is spent turning. So a lot of energy is transmitted into the tyre. Cam Waters has been fighting the effects of a cold this weekend. Tim Slade on screen, cut of the 14 Freightliner Racing. They made that car much better between Friday and Saturday, and then you heard Brand Johns explaining earlier the problems that they had trying to get through the race without a fuel leak. I just can't help it. We had a great crowd here building up yesterday through to the back end of the race, where there were a lot of supercar fans that came and watched all of the action all around the hill, and it looks like we've got a great crowd building up there again today. Now, Davison's also on a very good lap here at the moment, Mark, so he's mid-sector better than anybody else we've seen so far. McLaughlin's quickest in 1, Davison in 2, and Whincup in sector 3 at the moment. David Reynolds is on screen. His debrief was an interesting one. It's never been a track that he's been overly in love with one way or another, but I asked him how his day was. He said, quote, average as, no pace, bad pit stop, I stalled in the pits, strategy wasn't great, overall wasn't much fun. Yeah, right, looking for the positives.
That's not good.
But apart from that, he had a great day. George Commons is closest to camera there, the engineer for Rick Kelly.
That's a good bounce back. That's up to 3rd.
9-0, so that's a nice little jump in performance for them. Cam Waters had an overall pole on Sunday at Townsville.
Now, what does that mean? Because you just started to talk about the session being faster because of less UV and cooler conditions. Will Davison's currently fastest with an 8.8. Rick Kelly doing a 9.0. That's significantly faster than he was yesterday. We'll find the numbers out for you in qualifying, because Rick Kelly, he was actually weighted at 21st. He did a 9.59 yesterday. So he's over half a second faster, so the conditions are definitely better. But what's it really mean? It means he's 3rd right now with just under 10 minutes to go. Will a 9.04 be fast enough to stay in the 10? Everybody will go faster based on those numbers.
Yeah, and on Rick Kelly there, guys, too, I just noticed that was actually on a green set of Dunlops that he went out on to do that. And maybe it is because of the temperature, the way things are changing down here, I suppose, with UV coming on the racetrack. Will Davison, that was done on a set from yesterday. I think probably a mixed set of race tyres. So that was a pretty good lap by him on the new set. But Rick Kelly on greens.
Yeah, well, that's a good explanation, because that's then a number that's not as impressive as the turn 2 exit curb. So yeah, so that point's a really good one, Murph, because if you've gone on a green tyre and done a 9.0, but Will Davison on a set of used tyres has done an 8.8, then you're still really out of the ballpark.
Which is a new practice record, by the way, has genuinely moved the markers. So the conditions are pretty good pace out there. So 8 3/4 minutes remaining now in this session, and it's a contributor to Armour All qualifying. We're looking to quarantine the top 10, and they move into the second portion of Armour All qualifying. Chaz Mostert on the podium yesterday. He's currently sitting in 3rd. He's done a personal best sector in sector 1, 23.5. Less than a tenth of a second away from Scott McLaughlin. He said on the grid yesterday, and he'd said earlier in the weekend, the car's not giving him the feedback that he's looking for. It was a little bit loose through turn 5 that time. His mid-sector split is just a little less than a tenth slower than Will Davison. He chased it into the final corner, and that was what you could hear Mark oohing and ahhing in the background about, because he slid it in there. We'll see what the time comes up as, and it was a 9.0. It was 1/100th slower than his best time now. McLaughlin's on a very good lap mark, so his first sector better than anybody in the field, 23.46, personal best in the mid sector. So 8.8.
Oh, how hard was that on the limiter for that long then? That's the longest I've heard.
Coming out of the final corner quickly for that to happen. They've got a lot of drive traction. This is Lee Holdsworth, turn 2.
Car looks really nice, Lucko.
Oh, just to put some perspective here, I mean, Scafey, you've named these sessions qualifying 0, and rightly so. So I stand here down here at Red Bull and Shell because their garages are sort of separated by the control tower from the rest of pit lane. So I'm sort of sticking around here, but 4 sets of green tyres. Well, actually, I'm wrong. 3 sets of green tyres sitting here ready to go. So I'm going to bail out because this is going to get red hot with 5 to go.
And just a quick update on Mark Winterbottom. He's yet to set a representative time. They've just pushed him out with green tyres on the left-hand side of his car. They were here till 1 o'clock in the morning trying to chase something with that car. They are yet to find a sweet spot with that car for Mark Winterbottom.
Yeah, they had great difficulty yesterday, and Phil Keaton, the engineer for the Irwin Racing entry, just saying that they're chasing the behaviour of the car in the mid-corner. Whilst that conversation was going on, by the way, Shane Van Gisbergen's lap time deleted for exceeding track limits at turn 2. So that's a couple of times now that he's bowled wide down there. So the order, and we've seen 3 8s at the top. Davison, McLaughlin and Most at 8.8, 8.8, 8.9. Very tight, 0.12 of a second across the top 3. Next in the queue is Rick Kelly, fastest Nissan on a 9.0. Then Whincup, Holdsworth, Van Gisbergen, who's having a little battle personally with turn 2. Track limits at the moment. Reynolds, Heimgartner and Slade. That's your 10. 6 minutes remaining, and we're looking for those top 10 cars to move into the second portion of Armour All qualifying. Now, who's out that might get in? At the moment, Coulthard, we know that he had some braking trauma yesterday and a pretty ropey run. He's down in 18th position. And Jacobson well off the road down there at turn 2 in the dirt.
So Cam Waters down in 15th. You'd expect him to improve. Fabian Coulthard down in 18th. You'd expect him to improve. Mark Winterbottom there is currently 23rd. Doesn't look that nice, does it? It doesn't flow well enough. It hasn't got, in the middle of the slower corners, enough rotation. Can't keep the mid-corner speed up. This is David Reynolds, who's done his fastest first sector, is roughly 1/10 of a second away from McLaughlin on that sector, and then he's about 1/10 away in the mid-sector from Will Davison, who has been the fastest car in sector 2. Chaz Mostert, the fastest car in sector 3.
Yeah,
what's this do for Davey? And not quite. 9.32.
That one. Come in quickly, and we'll get you on a set of better tyres.
The other guy that was battling yesterday was James Courtney, and he said that it was just terrible. We took a couple of shots of it at different times during the day, and it looked like he had his hands full. So that was difficult for him, and it looks like it still might be. He's down in 19th position at the moment.
Bad sportsmanship flag, car 99, exceeding the track limits, turn 2.
So after your comment about Tim not working hard enough, he's been pretty busy on the phone since then.
Well, I can always rely on my brethren out in the racetrack to liven things up at some point. So they're making action down there at turn 2 in some cases. Anton De Pasquale is the driver that Tim Schenken, the race director, just referred to. And bad sportsmanship flag is going to be shown to him as Cam Waters comes back into the lane. We're taking that footwell, Cam, to understand a bit of the art form involved in driving these cars. 4 minutes remaining now. The top 10 headed by Will Davison. And the bottom of the bracket, Andre Heimgartner's in now. His teammate Rick Kelly's up in 4th position.
Can I be bold?
Please.
This is going to be the fastest time we've seen this weekend.
Fair chance, isn't it? So we've already seen a practice record set this morning. There's still scattered cloud, lower temperature conditions there at the moment, and brand new sets of Dunlop Sport Max tyres ready to be mounted onto the cars using those drive pegs.
Yeah, good work. You found that terminology now.
1 in 3 chance that you can actually seat the rim on them.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go and verify it because Larko's not good at counting. That's his sort of secondary skill.
Mark Winterbottom's getting new boots on that car as well, Greg.
I'm with you, Scafey, so I actually went and counted them myself because we know how he can get these things wrong, and I wasn't sure how good his counting was, so I did go and confirm it. Unfortunately, he was right.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, this is going to be very interesting because we've got exactly 3 minutes remaining now in this session, and this determines who moves to the second part of quali. And for those that don't make it into that top 10, they do well, I was going to say all three. It depends on who they are and how far they go in the process in the elimination qualifying. Race winner from yesterday, Jamie Whincup, 114 victories now in his supercar career. It was a long time between drinks for him.
It's a good lap from Van Gisbergen. He's only 300ths slower on the opening sector versus Scott McLaughlin's best. So a 23.46 plays a 23.49. We'll give you the sector 2 in a second, and he's done the fastest sector 2. This is a ripping lap from Shane Van Gisbergen. Can he get it stopped and turned? Yes, he does. Nice exit. Let's have a look at the wheel spin and the oversteer. He's got hardly any of it. That was beautiful in the exit. And he goes to the top with an 8.74. Very nice job by the Kiwi.
Just watch out for everyone behind you is starting a lap, so just try and get the tyres as clean as you can, but don't hold anyone up, please.
The fastest time we've seen this weekend, I think, was the 8.6 by McLaughlin, but that's very close to it. And McLaughlin's currently out there and potentially on target to give the number that Shane's just achieved something of a shake. Rick Kelly's on screen sitting in 5th at the moment, and he's not far from the money here. It's had a little slide through the 5th corner. Macaulay Jones has also been given the bad sportsmanship flag for exceeding the track limits at turn 2. Now, McLaughlin's second sector is better than anyone else as well. So sectors 1 and 2 belong to McLaughlin now in car number 17. And he's coming out of the final corner. There he is in the background. So the number to chase is a 1 minute 8.7. This is going to be a potentially big number. It's an 8.3 for McLaughlin. That is a big number. So that is very, very fast. And McLaughlin had the quali record previously. It was an 8.4. He set it in 2017. So that's very fast for McLaughlin. A 1 minute 8.39. 0.2 of a second on Jamie Whincup. Van Gisbergen's gone back into the lane. There's 40 seconds remaining. Then it's Davison, Holdsworth, Di Pasquale, Mostert, Heimgartner, Rick Kelly and Nick Percat. So Captain Bold, you got it right.
30 seconds.
Mostert now goes to P2 with an 8.63. That is a ripping lap by McLaughlin. 8.39, plays 8.63, plays 8.65 for Whincup. And Van Gisbergen with 8.74. Will Davison, 8.82. Lee Holdsworth, good job. Di Pasquale, Heimgartner and Rick Kelly at the moment are in the 10, which is great news for Nissan fans. They're 8th and 9th. Fabian Coulthard's responded from being way down, but he's just got knocked out. Cam Waters jumped up 4 spots to be 10th. Fabian Coulthard goes to position 11. Who else can knock them off? Let's have a look at the cars that are still out there. Scott Pye improves, but only to 18th. No one. Let me have a look. Still going, but I don't know of anyone that's going to knock Rick Kelly off. Oh, Percat's a chance. Lee Holdsworth's gone up 1 spot to 5th. Percat, what's he do? No. Last sector, 2.5 tenths too slow. 9.16 for Percat. So that's not fast enough. He's 12th. Yeah, I think it's done. Here's James Courtney with a big slide at the final corner. What's Courtney do?
David Reynolds coming to the line here as well.
No good.
13th, but he'd already taken the best bite out. Here's Waters. So we'll wait for everybody to trickle across before confirming what that top 10 looks like. Presently, Waters is 10th, and he's actually just moved up 3 spots into 7th position on an 8.8. Gee, there's a big group in the 8s today, Mark. So you've got McLaughlin setting a benchmark 8.3. That's a new qualifying record around here. And then you go all the way down to Anton Di Pasquale. In fact, Heimgartner's even in the 8s there as well. So he got an 8.9 late in the game. So, wow, interesting session. And as you said, with these conditions out there being cool, a little bit more scattered cloud, those numbers that you can see up on screen are very impressive. 8.3 for McLaughlin, Mostert, then Whincup, Van Gisbergen, Holdsworth, Davison, Waters, Di Pasquale, Heimgartner and Rick Kelly, the 10. And these are the drivers that didn't quite get there. Fabian Coulthard heading that group. Position number 11, Percat, Reynolds, Hazelwood, Slade, Courtney, Winterbottom, Golding, Pye and Caruso, followed by Simona, Macaulay, Gary Jacobson and Jack Lebrock.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm just having a bit of a laugh with Ludo over here, we're having a chat about the change of the car. Sorry to interrupt, mate. I just got caught out badly there. Having a laugh with your engineer. Remember that little chat we're having at the start? Yeah. Ludo's going, change the car, leave it alone. No. You changed it. Now, I just want to give people at home some perspective. You nearly put 3/10 on the field there in what is kind of a quasi-qualifying thing. A quick calculation, Scotty.
That's a Mark Skate word.
Yeah, it is a Mark Skate word. But so if you took that to the back straight, 0.3 of a second's nearly 20 metres, right?
Yep.
That's a big jump, mate. What did you find there to put that gap on the field?
There's a bit of me, the driving-wise. I had a big think overnight just where I could improve in driving and work the best there. But the car, we needed to make it a little bit more lively for me. I don't mind it's been sideways and whatever. I think it's going to help us in the race if we can have more turn. So I don't care if we're speedway a little bit. If we can just be a little bit loose and get me turned and pointed to go, it helps. And that's certainly what we try to do today.
That's a hard balance, Scotty, isn't it? We've looked at your car during the course of the year compared to, say, Fabian's. You've always run a little bit less wing that makes it lively in the rear end. We know a lively rear end makes the car turn really well. You like that, but then you've got to fight tyre degradation. How do you do that?
Yeah, look, it's easier to fight it in the race because you're not braking as much on the limit and stuff like that. If you've got a little bit of initial looseness, you can sort of point the car and go and then straighten the car up because you're turned already, and that's where you look after the tyre. So, you know, I'm pretty happy. The balance was definitely a lot more to my liking, but we'll see how we go tomorrow.
Thanks, pal.
Cheers.
Well, Dave, a great job yesterday, mate. Congrats again, getting that podium first for you for a while, but also first for this team. Sensational. And you've continued on this morning, watching you guys at work. How did that play out?
Yeah, it was a pretty good session. We actually, because we had a day to think about things, so we made a few changes and more focused. We're getting greedy, but more focused on just trying to refine the race car a little bit. Actually really good on used tyre. I did my quickest time on a used tyre then, so we had a bit of a dip at the very end on a new tyre, but we went slow. I had a bit of an issue on that last run, so we're quick on a used tyre then, and I think we know what we did wrong on the new tyre.
Hey, yesterday too, we just found out as well, you had a couple of more issues in that car towards the end of that stint when you were trying to chase down Jamie Whincup there. You had a couple of airbox issues there too, which slowed your progress.
Yeah, I was packing myself. All of a sudden I'm thinking everything's going to plan and going well. Just please don't have anything go wrong. And next thing, middle of the last corner, went to get on the throttle, so it was basically like fueled up. So I went to get on, it was like over-fueled and wouldn't go anywhere. So I had to get right out of the gas, and just as we came onto the straight, it cleared, and just as Chaz was about to get me. So I was not relaxed, I tell you, till I saw that checkered flag.
Feeling good being having that this consistency going at the moment?
It is. It's awesome. I've done this deal a long time, but it's just no better feeling when you're in a sweet spot in a window, see it lift the team, and to give this to Phil. Thanks, mate. I know how fickle it is, this game, but certainly milking, having a quick car, it's a bloody nice feeling.
Enjoy qual.
Thank you. Cheers.
Rick Kelly, you were looking pretty frustrated yesterday, but nice way to start the day into the 10.
Yeah, it's pretty hard going out there. We see both Andre and myself got in the 10 there, which is a big shift from yesterday, but we're just in there by the skin of our teeth. It's really difficult these days to maintain that. You can see a couple of really big names out of the 10 there as well, so happy to be there and save those tyres.
What is your tyre situation as we head into qualifying?
It's pretty good. Much better now that we don't have to do that first session. We opted to use another set in practice then, and it's pretty risky because if you don't get in, then you're set down and you've only got 3 to get through the 3 sessions. So we're looking pretty good, but we still got to work out how to extract a little bit more time out of the car. It's very difficult to put a complete lap together and get the time on the board with the setup that we're running at the moment. So it's going to make it challenging for that qualifying session. We've got to try and make it a little bit more user-friendly.
Andre Harmgartner, you were feeling pretty second-hand last night. How are you feeling this morning?
Yeah, a bit better today, but always start the morning pretty rough and get a bit better. So good thing we're in the 10 now, makes you feel a bit better, and good that Rick's there with us. We can have 2 cars, hopefully, trying to get in the top 10 in the last qualifying.
Yesterday when we spoke to you, you were really confident with your race pace. It was the qualifying that you were sort of a little bit nervous about. Obviously, things are starting well this morning.
Yeah, well, these 3 qualifying sessions, it's always the case that I've been about 11th or 12th, about 4,000ths or 1,000ths out. So it's nice to be on the other side of that today. And, I picked up quite a bit in just lines and stuff by watching the footage you guys actually posted last night of Scotty and stuff. So, but we still got a way to make the car work using those lines. So it's a good positive step, but still a way to go.
Glad we could help.
Cheers, thank you.
David Reynolds, outside the top 10, so you're going through all 3 phases of qualifying. Not that is necessarily a bad thing, but how's your tyre situation?
Yeah, tyre situation's good. We've got a couple of sets of tyres to run in 3 qualifying sessions. But last night we went to howtomakeyourracecarfast.com and probably purchased the wrong bits because we're a bit more off the pace.
What made you go to that website?
Just to, chat out the back of pit lane. Everyone seems to be going to that website, and I don't think it exists, so...
But you did have a swing of it. You told me this morning, bit of a wholesale change. Not happy?
Yeah, it's hard to say right now because obviously we rolled out and the track was kind of probably the best condition it has been all weekend, and my car felt heaps better than it did yesterday because the track temp was so different. And then I think we just got led into a false sense of security and led down the garden path.